Good morning, girls. Myself, Dr. Sarita, and today we'll be doing the poem The Tiger by William Blake. The Tiger is not a simplistic poem as it yields many interpretations. However, its strong, resonating rhyming drives the key concept in reader's mind efficiently. William Blake's literary masterpiece, The Tiger, has been scrutinized from literal and metaphorical points of view as he revisits his preferred dilemmas of innocence versus experience. As for God, his creations are just beautiful and transcend the notions of good and evil. As is the case with his earlier poems, The Tiger gives no visible answers except offering more questions. The poem slowly and gradually leads to asking some troubling questions. The Tiger, in essence, is a poem where the poet asks the tiger about its creator and his traits. Each stanza poses certain questions with a vague subject in consideration. The poem largely questions the existence of God and its metaphysical attributes, referring to Tiger's multiple corporeal characteristics as purely a work of art. The poet wonders how the creator would have felt after completing his creation. Is he also the creator of the lamb? The poem Tyger consists of 6 quatrains. Quatrain means a 4 line stanza, entailed in rhymed couplets. The poem flows with a rhythmic synchronization with a regular meter. The hammering is relevant to blacksmith herein. It has been written in a neat, regular structure with neat proportions. The poem slowly points out to the final question therein. The Tiger consists of 6 stanzas, each stanza consisting of 4 lines each, as I have mentioned earlier. The first and last stanzas are similar with the word could and dare interchanged. The poem at times is all about questions to the divine, with at least 13 different questions asked in the poem entirely. The poem seems worried as to how the creator shaped up such a magnificent creature, but more so, how is the creator himself? After publishing Songs of Innocence, Songs of Experience was published in 1794. The aim of the poet was to demonstrate the contrarian nature of the soul and human thought. The poem, The Tiger, was published in his collection of poems known as Songs of Experience. It became an instant literary classic amongst all-time classic poems of the modern era. Songs of Experience was written in opposition to Songs of Innocence, key components in Blake's thought process being a radical thinker of his time. The Tiger was the pinnacle of the heresy for William Blake, pitching humans bearing the onus for their actions. Let's begin by reading the poem and then explaining it. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? The initial verse refers to Tiger imploring about its beauty and creator. As the poem leads on gradually, the poem clearly makes it a point to discuss God as an entity as opposed to the tiger. William Blake champions metaphors as the first one, burning bright, which is also alliterative, refers to the tiger's bright yellow fur as it roams freely in the forest night. The central question, as the reader slowly realizes, pertains the existence of God. Slowly, William Blake attacks the Christian God as he asks whether a divine entity is capable of creating such a mesmerizing creature with perfect definitions and extraordinary beauty. Whether he deems God impotent of creating such a 4 legged creature is left open ended to the reader. Fearful symmetry is a nuanced trait which has dual allusions, one for the tiger and the other referring to the divine deity. As apparent, the sublime characteristic refers to an entity extremely big and powerful, yet mysterious. As a result, the poem starts off with poetic allusions entirely open ended for the reader to perceive as he pleases. He slowly arrives at the question as how would a god be when he hath created such a scary creature walking freely in the jungle? Let's move on to stanza 2. In what distant deep or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? The poet's fascination with Tyger even ever increases as he seems mesmerized with his fiery eyes. He feels that the fire in his eyes came from a distant heavenly body such as hell, heaven, or heaven. The poet adds to the fiery image of the tiger by using the metaphor of burning from the first verse. The third line throws the reader off track. William Blake is slowly coming to the point of his argument, which is God. The poet resonates the point that tiger reflects his creator. The poet furthermore creates a more supernatural image using the words of hand, wings, and fire relating to the divine being. These words have been reiterated from above. Reiterated means repeated. The term daring is introduced, which is reverberated in the latter stanza. Let's move on to the third stanza. And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dead hand and what dread feet? Sinews means nerves, girls. The poet in this stanza discusses the physical characteristics of the Almighty Creator, contemplating about his various physical features. The lines are lost in translation as the poet wonders in depth about God's physical attributes, which could also be an allegory to Tiger's characteristics. Moving on to the fourth stanza. What the hammer? What's the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil? What dead grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? Hammer, I hope you all know. And anvil means a nail. This stanza questions the steps involved in creation of the almighty jungle creature, the tiger. As I first mentioned, the poem is full of questions, and I remember telling you there are 13 questions in all. An allegorical reference to blacksmith, he hypothesizes some intelligent creator developing his creation akin to a blacksmith as he cuts hammers and forms metal after considerable toil. The stanza is dipped in rhythmic poetry, adding flair and color. As a parent, the poet is getting impatient and embarks on questioning the faith and its overalls. Moving on to stanza 5. When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamp make thee? These are the Christian verses of the poem. The first line clearly indicates the demotion of God's archangel, Satan, as a sign of rebellion against God's will. It's also a veiled reference to John Milton's poem Paradise Lost. He refers to Almighty Creator, looking with reverence at his finalized creation. This stanza is purely Christian by all means. The lamb can dually mean the Lamb of God or lamb from his poem The Lamb from the Songs of Innocence. The former is an open reference to Jesus Christ, the Lamb of God, sent by God on earth to atone the sins of mankind. Coming to the stanza 6. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? This last stanza is the repetition of the first stanza as a chorus, albeit the word could has been replaced by dare by the poet. The poet in this section attempts to question the creator's ability. The poet embarks on challenging the ability of his creator to creating this almighty creature. William Blake builds on the general perception that all living entities must reflect its creator in some mannerism. The opening verses slowly lead to the primary objective of the poem, contemplating about God in the heavens above. In essence, the tiger is a beautiful, enigmatic means puzzling creature, yet lethal, poisonous, deadly at the same time. This also reflects the nature of God as he contemplates that a God could be just as loving and just as lethal when need be. As a result, what kind of being can be both violent and so magnificent simultaneously? The poem explores the moral dilemma of the poet, largely concerned with metaphysical entity. It becomes a symbolic allegory to God in hindsight. As the poet contends that such a powerfully destructive living entity can be a creation of a purely artful God, the poet precludes the notion of Tiger's creation in any way accidental or haphazard. He feels that this tiger is allotted immense physical strength as it can wield its command over weaker animals. The final allusion to the lamb can connote his reference to poem, the lamb, as he compares the timid living animal to that of tiger. God created tiger as a dominant creature while the lamb is simply a weakling compared to tiger. On the whole, the tiger consists of unanswered questions. The poet leaves his reader pondering, thinking the will of the creator, his limitless power, and awe of his creation, a threefold subject. In conclusion, the poet ends his poem with perspectives of innocence and experience, both a subject of great interest to him. Songs of innocence and songs of experience juxtapose opposing sides of human nature, comparing and contrasting innocence with corruption. The tiger is an extension of the same theme, representing two diverse perspectives of the human world. William Blake doesn't take either side but paints an opposing worldview for his readers. He also seems opposed to threefold controlling forces of religion, despotic rule, that is, Hitlership, and sexual repression. This much for today. Thank you, girls.